Hi, I'm Gary White for Central Kentucky Television. I'm here with Elaine Filiatru, who is the Nelson County Clerk. And behind us, you can see some maps of the county here in Nelson County and breakdowns of the precincts, because we're going to be talking about the election. And the last time we spoke, you had submitted some requirements to the state for approval. Well, those approvals have come in on all the breakdowns for the precincts and where everybody's going to vote. But there may be some changes for people that are coming up for where they're actually going to be voting for this upcoming election. Is that true?
Significant changes for many people. We've probably done 10,000 changes.
Wow.
10,000. That's our estimate, and there may be a few more than that, actually. Partly because of reapportionment. Started with reapportionment, partly because of changes to polling places, and partly because the boundary lines just had to be realigned. Just as with the reapportionment, the precincts, we try to get as close to population as we can without being too far out as far as convenience for voters.
Now, people have been receiving some cards in the mail, right, which kind of tell them where their new voting location is.
That's right. And that's the purpose of the card. Even though that card indicates that you've made a change to your voter's registration, we understand you have not. It's a generic card that's sent from the state. But the purpose of the card is to tell you that you go to a certain precinct to vote.
Okay. Yes, because on the card it actually will say your application's been accepted and you've been approved and all that kind of stuff. But just disregard that statement.
Exactly.
The information you really need is underneath that, where it says where your location is to vote.
The little block that is X'd on that card is the purpose for the card having come to you. And on the cards that we're sending out, the X is in the block that tells you which voting location you go to.
Okay. And as we said, there's lots of people in Nelson County who are going to be affected by this because the places have changed. Now, why did this come about? Why did you decide to change some of the locations for the voting?
Well, reapportionment was the driving force. The population shifts in Nelson County forced the reapportionment committee to make fairly large changes to at least 4 of our magisterial districts. You must vote within your magisterial district. Those lines were drawn in September of 2011. So we've been working on this process since then, but due to inaction by the legislature, courts, and things of that nature, we haven't been able to get our approval until just this last January. So we had a lot of work to do, and actually we went ahead and began to do some of it prior to. The county clerk's office has brought staff in on Saturdays in order to be able to make these changes with the equipment that we have available and needed to do the job.
And as you can see, there are a lot of precincts within each of the districts. There's 5 districts, correct?
That's correct.
Right. And then that breaks down into the different precincts. That tells you where you get to go and vote. And some of the precincts where you have to go vote, there are requirements as to disabled individuals had to be able to go into them too. So that kind of played a factor into determining what some of those places are going to be, right?
It does. The legislature many years ago determined that schools would close on Election Day in order that those buildings could be used for voting. We honestly feel that if we want to keep that in place and we need those buildings, that we should use them. So we have determined that we will use Thomas Nelson, we'll use Old Kentucky Home Middle School, we'll use Foster Heights School, and we're going to use Bardstown Primary now rather than Bardstown High School because of the confusion between Bardstown High and Bardstown Middle School, partly because of disability accessibility at the polls. That drives more than anything, the places that we can use as polling places. So we have determined that we will not use a few buildings that we used in the past. Instead of the county annex building, we're going to use the library this time. Any tax-funded building is available for elections if we choose to use that building.
Okay. And also, there's some different other factors that play into it as well. Like, for instance, if there's a city council or the mayor races in some of the other areas, you kind of try and make it for a money factor, kind of break it down so that you're not printing as many different ballots for the places too. So some of that kind of played into the precinct arrangement. Is that true?
That's exactly correct. We've worked very, very hard to try to get ballots that are not what we call split, so that we can get a Bardstown Independent School District and Bardstown City in one precinct, in as many precincts as we can, or in the Bardstown area, we've had to split one precinct per magisterial district around the city of Bardstown. We will always have Bloomfield and New Haven precincts split. However, we did combine so that we have each of those cities within one precinct. And of course, Fairfield is always within one precinct. So the elimination of ballots eliminates the need to print so many different faces for different precincts. And it also helps avoid confusion on the part of the poll workers, because at times it's very difficult to understand that a certain person gets a certain ballot when you have so many different ballots.
Yeah, a lot of people. So again, the cards have been mailed for the past several weeks. You may be getting yours shortly, and it is a legitimate card telling you where you do need to vote now, because those changes have occurred. If somebody has a question, what number or who can they contact for that?
They call us here at 348-1829 or 348-1820. Either of those numbers will work. And if you need anybody specific, you can just ask for them. Okay. 348-1829 is the election phone.
Okay. So you can give a call if you have a question further about where you are going to go and vote. Also, you are in the process of doing some stuff with your website as well to possibly make it so that they can utilize that for voting.
That's correct. We want to get this information up on our website. We want to make it as accessible as possible, and when the time for election comes, if you need to go check out and see where you're going to go vote, maybe you'll be able to access it on that website. Hopefully that'll be up. Hopefully have that on there within the next 2 to 3 weeks.
Okay, and what is the website address currently?
Nelson County Clerk. Is that it? Nelson County Clerk. Search. There are Nelson County, Kentucky, Nelson County, Virginia. You want to make sure you get Nelson County, Kentucky, but just search Google for it. Okay.
Yeah. Search on your search engine there for Nelson County Clerk in Kentucky, and you can find that website as well, or give a call if you have some questions. Again, we're talking with Elaine Filiatru, who is the Nelson County Clerk, and these are going to be in effect for the primary election in May.
That's exactly correct. The changes are made. They've been made.
Great. Thank you very much.
All right. Thank you, Gary.
This is Gary White for Central Kentucky Television.